Musk's Neuralink is a brain implant that can turn human beings into cyborgs, reverse physical disabilities, cure diseases, and save the planet from evil AI superintelligence. But how does it work? While a lot of science involved is literally brain surgery, I promise you that it isn't as difficult to understand as you might think. We are about to show you the inner workings of the brain-computer interface device known as Neuralink. Okay, so the first thing that we have to do is create a physical interface between your brain and the computer. That means we need to access your brain, and that means we cut a nice round hole into your skull. Not too big, just about the size of a watch face, that's all. Now, this is the outer layer of your brain, the cerebral cortex. This is where all of your high-level calculations take place. Different segments of the cortex control different aspects of your mind and body. Towards the front is where your mood and emotions are processed. Towards the back is where all of your sensory inputs get received, like touch and vision. Right in the middle is the motor cortex. This is the sweet spot that Neuralink wants to access, and it's because this particular section of the brain matter is responsible for turning thought into action. The idea here is that we can hardwire the motor cortex directly into a computer. Now you are controlling that computer entirely with your mind instead of a mouse and a keyboard. For a person who physically cannot move their hands, this is a life-changing enhancement. But even for an able-bodied person, you would unlock 1,000,000 times more bandwidth in the connection between your mind and the machine. Your thoughts instantly transformed into digital action. In order to access those thoughts, though, we need to insert a wire into your brain, and this is not just any wire. Neuralink engineers have developed an ultra-flexible metal thread that is thinner than a human hair, yet is also able to carry 16 separate electrode connections into the brain tissue. Each Neuralink N1 device has 64 threads that need to be inserted into the cortex, and the level of precision required is so high that no human surgeon could perform the operation, so instead, Neuralink uses a robot. The function of the R1 robot is remarkably similar to a sewing machine. The robotic arm has a tiny needle on the end that will very quickly stab into the brain material, deposit the thread, and then retract. The R1 has an advanced targeting system that helps it to avoid hitting any veins or blood vessels within the brain. The needle and the thread is only piercing the surface level of gray matter. What we're targeting with those threads are very specific cells inside the brain matter called neurons. There are 86 billion neurons distributed throughout the entire mass of your brain, and 16 billion of them are located in the outer cortex layer, and that makes them accessible to a Neuralink electrode. In the most basic sense, neurons are like little switches inside your brain, and they allow these electrochemical signals to travel all the way down from the cortex through the intersections of the brain and into the brain stem, where those signals get dispatched out through the nervous system to all the different parts of the body. So every action of the human body, from blinking your eyes to kicking a ball, begins with a particular sequence of neuron activations. By sticking our electrode thread right into the brain material where these neurons live, we can start to read the signals being broadcast by the neurons, kind of like eavesdropping on the brain's internal communications. Right now, we are only looking at them in a binary sense. The neuron is either active or not active, 1 or 0. And in this way, we can start viewing brain activity the same as computer code. In the instant that you perform an action like clenching your fist, a group of neurons will switch from inactive to active, from 0 to 1. And as long as that pattern is repeated every time that you perform that action, then we can essentially decode the neural signal for clenching a fist. So that's great, but what do we do with it? Well, imagine you have a spinal cord injury just below your brainstem. Your neurons can still generate the signal for clenching a fist, but the physical connection to the arm has been broken, so the message isn't getting delivered. But if we can use the threads to read that signal directly from the cortex, then we can create an electronic bridge that bypasses the physical damage and delivers the message into the nervous system. Or, in an even more extreme example, You could send that neural signal out of the body and into something else, like a robotic arm, that would respond to brain activity in exactly the same way as your biological arm. This is all stuff that Elon Musk is talking about right now. This is what he expects the technology to accomplish